Hi everyone, welcome to the Eindhoven Innovation Café. Welcome everybody who is watching online as well. Thanks for the short wait. For those who haven't been here before, we are a weekly networking event where we offer presentations on the subjects of technology, knowledge and design. And today we have Jip Bierkens here, Head of Marketing of STRP Festival. She will tell us more about that. This was made possible by Caravan Cultura. She will also give a short introduction in a second. So without further ado, I'll give it over to you.
Thank you so much, Anouk. I think more colleagues are coming. Thank you. Please take a seat here. Dear Eindhoven Innovation Café guests, my name is Jelena Haritonova. I'm a founder of Caravan Cultura Foundation. I'm a partner of Eindhoven Innovation Café, and every month I can introduce someone. And I'm very happy that today our guest is Jip from STRP Festival, whom we actually, I think all of you participated or have heard about. I'm attending annual STRP festivals, and I'm always flabbergasted by the high level of interactions and the topics discussed there. And STRP Festival, I remember from 7-8 years ago, it started at our STRP, but this year it was in the downtown of Eindhoven, and I think it's interesting how you come closer, so to say, to the citizens of Eindhoven, and I think it was yet another success story, and I decided that we, guests and participants of Eindhoven Innovation Café, should know more where you are standing now and where you are going. So the floor is yours. Please share your story, and we're all ears. Thank you.
Thank you. So, hi everybody. My name is Jip. I'm Head of Marketing and Communications at STRP. As of November, I used to work at Dutch Design Week as well, and I did a few freelance projects for, amongst others, Van Abbe Museum. So I'm quite familiar with the Eindhoven cultural scene, so to say. I'm here actually to talk about STRP as an organization, but also the festival, and to share my or our vision on the role of technology in our future. So I'm hoping that you'll be as enthusiastic about STRP as I am after this evening, and yeah, that you will join me in a discussion about the role of technology and our role as human beings, of course. So first, let me tell you something about STRP. STRP is an Eindhoven-based organization that wants to set up an open dialogue with the public, artists, designers, media makers, and thinkers about the relationship between people, experimental technology, society, and the future. STRP believes that the necessary changes to achieve a healthy economy, and undivided society must be fundamental and radical. We are not going to make it with fast design solutions and a blind faith in new technology. Since 2006, STRP has been offering new scenarios for the future, dialogue sessions, a festival, an international exhibition, workshops, tours, an extensive educational program, music and performances. And every year we co-produce a few artworks in collaboration with emerging artists. The vision of STRP actually is to look for the meaning of technology in our ever-changing society. STRP believes in a world in which we can use other philosophies and new technologies to radically rethink humanity's relationship with the world around us. We question the future with the knowledge of the past in the world of today. We are not necessarily tech believers. We do not think that tech will solve all our problems, but certainly also not tech pessimists. The world is not going down because of tech. We think there is a useful side to technology, but that it's also important to pay attention to what is happening in the world around us and what alternatives are available. Thus, with several events throughout the year, STRP is looking for new strategies and inspiration to build not a destructive but a constructive world. In doing this, we emphasize the importance of starting a dialogue with artists, with thinkers, and with the public. The early days of STRP. STRP was founded in 2006 together with Dutch Design Week and Glow. The goal actually was to make the Eindhoven DNA more visible in the city. and also more experiential. So the 3 events would each cover another aspect of what Eindhoven's DNA was, namely innovation, technology, art and design, knowledge, and knowledge sharing actually. Furthermore, the events would attract attention to Stripe S, which was quite undiscovered back then. The festival actually centered around a huge music program. Maybe you've heard about it. It's quite legendary, so to say. We had, amongst others, Underworld, the Chemical Brothers and the Antwoord as big artists. And as you can see, the Klokgebouw was always really sold out. We also offered art exhibitions and talks, but that element attracted way less visitors than the music program. The art exhibition did really focus on experiential design and the experiential side of technology. On this photo, you can see the installation Shrink by Lawrence Malstaff, and it contained of 2 plastic sheets in which people were placed, and a device that gradually sucked the air out of it, so a sort of vacuum, so to say. For the duration of the performance, the person inside moved slowly and changed from an embryo to like a crucifix kind of position. So yeah, it was really all about the experimental and experiential side of the technology and art. The talk programs had quite a few big names in the past, such as writer and publisher Kevin Kelly and Neil Harbison, who is a Spanish-Irish cyborg artist and activist for trans-species rights. Again, following the mission of Eindhoven to make the DNA visible in the city, the talks program focused on sharing knowledge with a big audience. So these days, the Eindhoven DNA is already quite visible in the city and in many events. Therefore, the mission of Stripe also changed. We no longer need to give technology a stage in Eindhoven, but we can show people how to make use of art and knowledge to better understand technology and the use of it in our future. As NRC Handelsblad once described, Stripe shows the soft and poetic side of technology. To be able to invite a bigger audience to think along, Stripe decided to move away from the closed-up Klokgebouw and into the transparency of the Eindhoven city center. However, the year in which this was supposed to be happening, we already know what happened. It was COVID. So what followed were 2 online editions of the festival. The theme of the 2020 festival was scenarios for the post-Anthropocene, which means we are currently living in the Anthropocene, an era in which human influence plays a dominant role in the future of life on Earth, with all its ecological, humanitarian, and social consequences. We humans tend to put ourselves at the center of the universe and behave superior to nature, plants, animals, and things. In the post-Anthropocene, humans are no longer at the top of the pyramid. Our position is decentralized and equal to that of nature, technology, objects, and intelligent systems. We are no longer the measure of things and have freed ourselves of philosophical superiority. With the 2020 edition of the festival, Stripe was driving the debate on the central role of mankind and at the same time wanted to imagine scenarios for the post-Anthropocene. The theme of the necessary decentralized position of man became even more spot-on and hyper-topical because of the COVID-19 crisis. Collectivity was the theme of the Stripe Festival 2021. Stripe asked itself, how can we as individuals better serve the collective? We need new forms of connection. What could they be? And what role can technology play in the search for new forms of collectivity? Looking at our connection to the natural world makes it possible to rethink the human perspective together and stop making man the center of the universe. By seeing the world as an ecosystem of equals, we can also give the rest of the world a place in our idea of the collective. In the end, both themes actually were very suitable for the time we lived in. The 2 COVID years, we experimented with different formats to present an online program with talks, discussions, and an online exhibition with a virtual guide in the form of a bot. Some elements were such a good addition to the program that we integrated them in this year's festival as well, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So, as all other cultural organizations, we struggle with a few challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Before the pandemic, Stripe was already investigating its audience to see who they actually were. Most people know Stripe by the extensive music program from the past, but we were curious to see who would also be triggered by the Expo and Scenario program. From that point onwards, Stripe decided to target 4 different audiences. The activistic Generation Z, actually, pioneers with interests in new developments of technology and arts, experts in creative technology, and educational professionals. But do we really reach these groups with our events? And what do they want and need from us? This 2022 edition marked the start of an extensive audience research. Another post-COVID challenge I think is also quite recognizable for other organizations is that we learned a lot about the online world and the past online events, and we want to keep a digital element to our events, but if only to reach a larger international audience in a relatively and easy and ecological responsible way. But how can we host a hybrid event without people getting screen fatigued, which is happening quite often these days? With our current events, we therefore try to experiment with different ways of hybridity and merge the digital with the physical. So this year, from 7 to 10 April 2022, Stripe Festival finally took place in the city center of Eindhoven. 4 days, various locations were marked by visual arts, technological discussions, experimental dialogues, and musical performances, all around the theme, The End of Infinity. Stripe Festival 2022 invited artists and the public to think about the meaning of infinity and possible alternative scenarios for our future. Because whilst the idea of an infinite Earth is becoming increasingly improbable, the desire for an eternal life in a digital cloud is growing. What strategies can we devise to break our addiction to material growth? And how can technological progress bring connection instead of abandonment? Together with artists, thinkers, and performers, Stripe was determined to find answers to these questions. The program was quite extensive, with 12 artworks spread across town, 4 daily scenarios, and 4 musical programs in the evenings, plus 2 club nights. Overall, this first in real life edition felt like a great success and super welcome after 2 years of only being able to organize online events. But on the other hand, we also took away a few learnings from this first edition in the Eindhoven city center. Of course, everything about the festival was quite new for us, but also for the visitors. It was the first time in 2 years that people could visit in real life instead of behind a screen, and everything was scattered through the city center instead of combined in the Klokgebouw. So as a central starting point of the festival, we decided to host a Stripe venue in Pullman Hotel. Here, visitors could get their wristband for the expo, get information, get a program or a festival map, have a drink, join an artist talk, and check out the first 2 works of the exhibition. And that actually worked out very well because we could really invite our visitors at a central place. It was quite challenging to combine the shopping mall vibes with the exhibition. Actually, at some places it was difficult to obtain the focus that was needed for the artworks and for the experience of a work to the fullest. However, after this first year, we now know better what works and what doesn't work, and also the mysterious art enclaves in the middle of a shopping mall and a busy and vibrant city center also have their charm and trigger a lot of passers-by to take a peek in the expo too. I also thought that the dynamic between the rush of a shopping mall and the stillness of an exhibition was actually a beautiful element of the festival this year. Yeah, one of the elements. It almost feels like you're. It almost feels like. Oh, sorry. Better? Yeah. Okay. It almost feels like you're browsing through space and discovering artworks on different planets. So I really love the element about that. And it was also quite challenging to ask the artists to make an online version of their work because they had already quite a big workload for the exhibition, but they all kind of loved it because it gave an extra addition to their work in the exhibition. I'm going to skip this, I think. I wanted to highlight a few works from the last year's festival. One thing that I really personally appreciate of Stripe is the way in which the theory and abstract ideas are translated into immersive and experiential art. One of the works of the Stripe Expo I would like to highlight here is Garden of Ghost Flowers from Lundel and Seitel and Untitled Garden. Every year, Stripe invites artists to come up with a new artwork for the ACT Award, the Award for Creative Technology. And Lundel and Seitel and Untitled Garden were one of the winners last year, so they were able to present their work at the Stripe Festival 2022. The work they showed was the first prototype of Garden of Ghost Flowers, a virtual reality experience striving to find new perspectives on how technology can frame human relations, how physical bodies can inhabit virtual worlds, and on new forms of artificial life. The work is inspired by the actual ghost flower, a plant that feeds not of sunlight, but of network of fungi in the soil. The work is also inspired by socialist Harmut Rosa, who defines resonance as a mode of interacting with the world around us, not based on control, but on mutual giving and taking, like a dance. In a digital biosphere, 20 visitors were invited to take care of the virtual ghost flower together. Through their way of relating, listening, and vocalizing, each group of visitors collectively provided a unique biotope for the Garden of Ghost Flowers to grow in. For me, this work was a perfect example of the softness of technology and the experimental kind of work that Stripe stands for. Another work that I think really synchronizes with the vision of Stripe is Server Farm Test Pilot 1 from artist and writer James Bridle. Bridle wants to build a computer made of and in collaboration with plants and critters. With Server Farm, they aim to explore the full possibility of information technology in fields, orchards, and gardens in ways that don't damage the planet. The project is a proposal for a real farm, which acquires, stores, processes, displays, and shares data, whilst at the same time restoring the biosphere and relations between human and nature. With Testplot 1, Bridle created a prototype for one field of this future farm. Working with researchers in Greece and France, Bridle is exploring the cultivation of hyper-accumulating plants. These plants grow in metal-rich soil and can be harvested to recover nickel, cadmium, and other materials. While these soils are usually toxic to plants, the ones found here have evolved unique abilities to survive and thrive in their particular locations. I really admire the way Bridle looks at our relationship with the world around us and with nature, and I therefore felt very inspired by the work at Stripe. For those of you who are interested, they published a new book, Ways of Being Beyond Human Knowledge, and I would certainly recommend that. As I mentioned earlier, every day of the festival we also organized a Stripe scenario. For these scenarios, Stripe collaborated with creative co-creators for a daily series of public talks that focus on the ethics of technology and the impacts of individuals and society. For Stripe Scenario 16, Interspecies Internet, Stripe and co-creator Ayoung Kim invited several artists and thinkers to explore how to integrate the data sphere into the natural world. What does an alternative economic system involving more than humans look like? And what can we learn from natural systems of trees that are interconnected, communicate with each other, and distribute nutrients through fungal networks, aka the Wood Wide Web? As hybrid performance, Ayoung Kim created an underwater world in VR chat, with which VR chat users from all over the world could also join the scenario. It was really fun to see how the digital and the physical emerged, and it was also a fun and original way to host a hybrid event in post-corona times. As I mentioned earlier, every day of the festival, we also hosted a music performance in the evening. It didn't come close to the massiveness of the music program in the past, but we did focus on a broader music program to balance between the expo music and scenario. One of the highlights of the music program for me was the performance of Tristan Parridge and James McPhinney. And Tristan Parridge is a producer and James McPhinney is an organist, and together they made the piece Infinity Gradients. And that was a composition for a pipe organ and 100 one-bit speakers, which was a really powerful symphony, and it suited the Catharinakerk perfectly, I think. So as a recap of the festival, I would also like to show you our after movie, so you get a full idea of what I'm talking about. Yes, so what's next for Stripe? We are currently working on an idea for a Stripe podcast, which we will publish every month. And in that podcast, we will dive deeper into the artworks and the artists that will be shown on next year's festival, but also the events throughout the year. Furthermore, we would really like to start a book club. We also did that in the past a few times, and it's a great way to reach out to our audience and really start a discussion with them about relevant topics. And of course, we are already looking forward to Stripe Festival 2023 from 13 to 16 April. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and feel free to share your take on the role of technology and us as human beings in the future. Thanks. And feel free to ask any question you have.
I'll be walking around with my mic, so it's very audible on the live stream.
What's your future plans to come in terms of collaboration with similar international events?
That's a good question, actually, because we are looking into the collaboration with international events really in depth, actually. We find that it's difficult to find partners from how do you say that? From an inhoudelijk, I don't know the word. Internal cooperation, but we're really looking for people who can join us and yeah, work together in the future. Yeah.
are you also looking, like, aside from international, are you also looking like outside of Eindhoven for these kind of collaborations?
Sure. Yeah, because Stripe is already quite known for the people in Eindhoven, and we try to increase that by hosting the event in the city center, of course. But also outside of Eindhoven, I think there are a lot of important people and people who are interested in what we do that we try to reach. So yes, certainly.
And do you also like have? Oh, it's gone. Do you stimulate like artists to develop their own artworks within your organization?
Yeah, we try to keep the balance between artworks that are already produced and artworks that we give the commission for, because we think it's really important to stimulate the new production of art. So in making the program for the festival, for example, we really try to find artists who are willing to make new works with us and really dive into the theme of that year. So yeah.
Maybe also about the creative process. I'm always fascinated, and it goes about Dutch Design Week as well. How do you project what themes, what topics would you cover for the upcoming editions? You know, who's deciding upon?
Yeah, that's actually nice to tell as well. We have a program team, of course, an internal program team, but we also work with a curatorial team. So those are artists and experts in the field internationally who think with us about the themes and the projects and the stuff that we do actually, and they advise us on that. Yeah, and maybe also good to mention that we are, since last year, we are working with a focus group, I think it's the word, and these are young people from the cultural scene who also get to say and reflect on our events and get to deliver input for what we do in the future as well. Yeah.
I'm monopolizing the floor, but still, maybe I'm absolutely excited about your festival. You know, you mentioned it was your first slide that you are collaborating with Dutch Design Week and Glow. Yeah. What are the, like binding moments? Can you disclose? Can you share? And would it be kind of maybe more? Maybe the collaboration will be closer.
I'm not sure if they were actually cooperating. I must say I wasn't involved back then, so I'm not sure if it was, but I think they were always discussing, because they have to cover another field of the Eindhoven DNA actually. So I don't think it was really a cooperation, but more like I don't know. A little bit of a cooperation, but they didn't do projects together, I think. And for now, Stripe is I think for the past years was visible at the Design Week as well with the project, so it happens. I think we're always looking out for things to do together, but I'm not sure how that will look like in the future actually. Yeah.
How did you manage to get people like Kevin Kelly and Jonathan Franzen on board?
I think these are people that are quite trend-setting in the art and technology scene. Yeah. So they really suited the themes of that editions of Stripe Festival.
But these are very busy people and very difficult to...
But I think if you can give them a fee, then they would be able to come, I think.
It's a question of big money.
Yeah, well, not big money, I think, but it's of course it's always a possibility to reach out to them and ask if they are interested to be present at a festival like Stripe. And I think because our visions are more like the same, they were quite willing to do so.
Yep.
Do you have any idea what the reaction of the public is of like moving from striped more to the center?
It differs actually. Some people find it refreshing, maybe, and others really, what I mentioned earlier, really had like trouble to dive into the artworks and to immerse themselves in the works because of the busyness of the city center actually. So it differs, but I think we have a clear vision of what people really experience and how we can improve that in the future as well. But I think for us it was quite successful because it was really easy to get a bigger audience introduced with the artworks and the topics that we wanted to discuss. So at Klokgebouw you were really hidden away and nobody knows that you're happening unless you're following us online. But this way was really effective to reach out to a bigger audience. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good time to round things off for now. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we should all go in April and other events.
Nice.
So thank you all for being here as well. We can't go into the restaurant for drinks because there's an exclusive event, but as long as the weather stays all right, we can be on the terrace. So you're very welcome to go over there, and then I'll ask a colleague to come and ask for some drinks. So we really can't go into the restaurant, so noted. So thank you for being here. Check out the website for the most up-to-date program. It's ehvinnovationcafe.org. Next week we have 2 nominees of the Kazerne Design Awards, one of which is the winner. Ruben Warrenshuis and Eva Jagerman will be coming here about their own their design developments. One of them has made shoes, the other one has made a manual knitting machine. And thank you also for everybody watching online. Let's go for drinks. We'll provide the snacks and we can organize the drinks for you. Thank you. Thank you.